Hello and welcome to the Hibs Observer morning briefing. I'm Patrick McPartlin and I'm joined as always by Liam Bryce. Today we have a Viaplay Cup quarter-final tie at Easter Road this evening. Hibs aiming to get back to Hampden for the first time since the 2021-22 season. St Mirren a bit of a daunting prospect, I would say, given their start to the league campaign and the fact that they've already beaten Hibs at Easter Road on the first day of the season. However, it is a very different Hibs team in terms of the style of play, in terms of the mood in the camp, and obviously a chance for Nick Montgomery to get to Hampden for the first time. He's never played there before, obviously never managed before there either, despite a couple of appearances with Scotland at under-21 and future level. So, Liam, just to discuss the game first, we'll move on to team news and injury updates a bit later, but how do you see this game playing out, if you can, based on what we've seen from the two teams in sort of recent matches?
I think you'd expect it to be tight. It was a strange game, that one, earlier in the season. Really odd game, topsy-turvy, a bit chaotic and all over the place. I don't think that's what Nick Montgomery would... He'd be obviously looking for a bit more control, I think, than Hibs had in that first game. But I think just above all else, I think that's just a really exciting cup tie. St Mirren, obviously one of the form teams in the country at the moment, and Hibs certainly looking as though they've, got a new lease of life under a new manager. So for the two of them to be coming together at this point in a cup competition that's, let's say, it's wide open at this point. It's a real opportunity for both teams. Obviously, you'd still put Rangers as the favourites to go on and win it, but they don't have their troubles to seek at the moment. So I think teams like Hibs, St Mirren, basically everybody else in the competition will be looking at this as a real opportunity to get themselves to Hampden, possibly pick up a bit of silverware. So I think it's a really kind of exciting prospect, this game. Two teams in good form. Hibs, obviously it's maybe not looking for revenge as such, but given that there's been a change of management, a complete change of style. But they may be looking to right some wrongs from the first time St Mirren came to Easter Road, and St Mirren themselves, you'd imagine they'll be coming into this with an awful lot of confidence. And I think it's night tie under the lights and whatnot. It's got all the makings of a cracker.
I think we've basically set up for a 0-0 now, haven't we?
Absolutely. It'll be terrible. Sorry.
I think it's... Yeah, we'll discuss this post-match just in case we've got some apologies to make. I think you look at what Nick Montgomery's done so far. He's gone to Kilmarnock, tough place to go, and he's got a good performance for his players, albeit not the result he wanted. And he did say he was a little bit annoyed by the loss of the goal from the set piece and not getting 3 points, especially given they were 2-0 up with about half an hour left to play. Then his first home match in charge, so fairly comprehensive 2-0 victory against St Johnstone. Could have been more, maybe should have been more. You consider the number of chances that Hibs had, a couple of good saves from Dimitar Mitov, and a little bit more composure from Eliu at times, and that might have, the scoreline might have been a little bit more emphatic than it was. But obviously, this is, the kind of honeymoon period, if you like, is over for Nick Montgomery. It's now about getting results. Tonight is a really good opportunity for Hibs to get to the last four of one of the domestic cup competitions, which obviously is one of the targets for the club every season, going deep in both cup competitions and finishing as high up the league as possible. So does this game feels like it's got a little bit more riding on it than just, let's hope it's a good performance under a new manager from the fans' point of view. It really needs to be a win. It needs to be quite resounding in terms of performance, if not necessarily the result. Obviously, with cup games, the most important thing is you get through. But it does feel there's a little bit extra to it, doesn't there? Because it is that it's not just league duty. It is a chance to get back to Hampden.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like a potentially significant moment, even this early on, just for the fact Nick Montgomery, he's come in. He's been largely impressive in everything that he's done. He said a lot of the right things. He's come across very well. I think Hibs fans have appreciated the fact that he's a very straight talker. There's no messing about in that regard. And then I think the fact that you can see within just the space of a few games, he's already kind of imprinted, somewhat of an identity onto this team where it was maybe lacking before. And I think I wrote kind of after the game, he's laid good foundations so far, but it is obviously still very early. And I think to go and have an opportunity like this because it would be a statement result, really. We've talked about St Mirren's form and how good they've been this season. They're not an easy team to turn over. It is a real chance to make an early statement in terms of beating one of the form teams in the league. 2 wins on the bounce, obviously, and then it's just the feel good factor that comes with securing that trip to Hampden is really, really valuable as well. And he's been kind of fostering that so far, bringing a bit more. I think you wrote it at the weekend. Hibs, there's a chance that they could be fun again. Because there wasn't an awful lot of that. Maybe a couple of the European results aside, there hasn't been a lot of that around in the early kind of weeks, months of the season. So it's a real opportunity. They probably will be maybe feeling a bit of kind of expectation now as well, given the start that he's made. Hibs fans will be expecting the team to go out and win tonight, basically. As we're saying, it's an opportunity, and it's a potentially kind of significant moment, because I think to get the club back to the latter stages of a cup competition, those big occasions at Hampden, it would be a real marker for him to put down at this point.
Oh, definitely. And I suppose on a kind of overall basis, you've got a sort of feeling of trying to build up some sort of momentum. You get a good performance and result at Aberdeen, good performance, at Rugby Park against Kilmarnock. You then get a good result against St Johnstone. You get a good result tonight, that should set you up for the weekend's game against Dundee. So every game sort of becomes sort of important in its own right for sort of maintaining this sort of feel good factor around the place, this momentum. And I think I wrote this in one of the pieces I did from yesterday's press conference, that it's very simple at the moment. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel at Easter Road. It's very much, let's tighten up defensively. Let's make us, let's make us more kind of devastating in the final third, if you like. Let's take chances. That appears to be what the coaching staff are doing at the moment. And I think with every sort of passing week or every passing game, you can sort of see a little bit more being added in. You can see something new being tried. It doesn't always come off, but I think the exciting part for the fans, the exciting part is thinking that Nick Montgomery's not really had his feet under the desk for too long, and there's still probably a lot more to come. We're moving on to tonight to possible team selection. We certainly both got it horrendously wrong at the weekend. Granted, I think we maybe hedged our bets a little bit with some of the walking wounded, the likes of LU and Christian Deutsch.
I think we can give ourselves a pass there. I think that's
that's fair enough. But both of them have been given a clean bill of health. Deutsch just had his stitches out from what Nick Montgomery keeps describing as a really horrific injury, which is nice every time he brings that up. But Deutsch has been given the all clear. Eli Yuan has also been given the all clear. Can you see one or both of them coming back into the starting lineup tonight?
I think at least one. I think it feels a fairly safe bet. But I think Eli Yuan will start. I think he made a difference when he came on Saturday. I think it's not to say I don't think Jared Tavares was poor, but I just think the directness, the bit more decisiveness that Yuan brought when he came in. Obviously, I mean, there wasn't so much decisive about that one that he spooned right over the bar, but I think in general he was good, and he kind of provided a bit more forward thrust compared to Tavares. So I think he did fine, and I think as well, to be fair to him, the game had changed by that point. St Johnstone were behind, and they couldn't quite sit in the way that they were doing in the first half. But I think there was a definite improvement in terms of the fluidity and the expansiveness of it in the second half. And I think for that reason, you'd probably expect Yuan to come back in. And just for the fact as well, Tavares, he's not played a lot of football, as we touched on, and maybe the manager might look at it and think, starting 2 games in such a short space of time is maybe a wee bit much for him at this stage. Doidge, I don't know. I mean, you would have maybe expected so, because I think, there was Nick Montgomery was, I don't think he completely ruled out starting him against St Johnstone at the weekend. I think he said at his press conference before that, he was going to give it as long as possible. He wasn't going to make any decisions until he absolutely had to. But then, you had Le Fondre come in and he was very good. So I think that's probably the big decision. And I think there's maybe a chance that he might stick with Le Fondre. I think him and Dylan Venter, I think they understand each other quite well. I think it's two very intelligent footballers. I think you can tell, and I think in that front four where it's very fluid. Again, you can players popping up, in kind of any of the four positions across that front line. I think they're well suited to it. But again, Doidge has been good as well. He'd have been raring to start, I think, at the weekend, even for the fact, that he'd had that injury and he was bandaged up. There was some bit of headgear that it really was. So I don't know, that I think that is probably the area of the pitch that I think when the teams come out, everybody will have their eye on, because I think it really could go either way. That one, you could make a case for both. And I'm not going to get off the fence on that, I'm afraid. I'm going to stay firmly on it. I do think Yuan will come in, but I think it's a toss-up, I think, between Le Fondre and Doidge as to who takes that kind of final place in the attack.
But it's a nice dilemma for the management team to have, isn't it? It's a sort of thing, we could potentially put, any one of a number of players in a number of positions and be sure to get a good performance and get a cohesive kind of, they're sort of going to play as a unit. I mean, certainly, I think Nick Montgomery said at his press conference yesterday, he was making the point that it's not about always playing the same players every week. He's saying they're not going to take risks. They're not going to kind of force somebody to play if they maybe aren't ready. I mean, I think earlier on in the season, almost out of necessity, you had Josh Campbell playing in the European games with his shoulder heavily strapped up. Dylan Venter, I think there were times when he was maybe taking a sore one early on in games. It was kind of soldiering on because, I mean, it's obviously you want to have players who are going to be fighting for the jersey like that, but at the same time, you also don't want to be risking having them out longer term because, they're kind of limping on because there isn't really an alternative. Mm-hmm. But I think you're talking there about Le Fondre and Venter and the way they've sort of dovetailed, I suppose, in recent games. But I think with Le Fondre, because of his experience, because of his sort of nous, his everything that he's done, whether it's been in England, whether it's been in Australia, you can just sort of see when he's playing, whatever position it is, whether he's playing more as a centre forward, whether he's playing just behind, there's that sort of game intelligence that it doesn't really matter who he's playing with or who he's playing alongside. He gets those sort of little touches like that pass for mm-hmm. Venter's goal on Saturday, little things like that. And it must be a sort of joy for any management team to have a player with that kind of ability and with that sort of vision as well, because it's little things like that. And I think the closest maybe in recent times has been someone like Scott Allen, who can just sort of see those passes that nobody else can, and that can sometimes be the difference. So, I mean, I'm not going to get off the fence either, to be honest. I think there's an argument for starting Doidge. There's an argument for starting Le Fondre, but I get the feeling that Montgomery probably won't want to change it up too much. I think. Mm-hmm. I certainly think we could see Yuan being brought back in. I think you're right. I think he did make a difference when he came on at the weekend. Tabara certainly looked like a player who hasn't played a lot of first-team football in recent months, which I think is understandable. Despite that, I thought he did sort of still look a little brighter than he did maybe last season at times. Mm-hmm. I think it was that big shot that wasn't too far away. There were a couple of promising runs, and there was that. There was a chance sort of fairly early on, I think, where I think he maybe misjudged the bounce of the ball or the speed of the ball, perhaps, and could have had a one-on-one situation. But we've talked before about the fresh starts that Montgomery's giving to players. So I still think we're likely to see him still getting game time off the bench. That's the reason why Rory Whittaker came on at the weekend and played further forward, because Hibs don't have a lot of options in those wide areas. But if Montgomery's able to throw these guys in who haven't maybe played first team football before, or in Jair's case, haven't played for quite some time, and still get a tune out of them, then it's obviously going to be beneficial to the team and to the way he wants to play. One area I do want to discuss is the defence. I think we both fairly confidently said that Paul Hanlon would come back in on Saturday. He didn't. He did come off the bench, but Montgomery kept faith with Rocky Bashiri and Will Fish as his centre-half pairing. Do you see him doing the same again?
I do actually, yeah. I think off the back of a clean sheet at the weekend, I think you wouldn't be surprised to see the back four stay as it was. Sorry, just for the fact that, again, I think they were largely solid. St John's had a couple of opportunities the first half, and then there was obviously the one in the second half where David Marshall made that really good save. But I think, largely they were good, and I think you have to credit Bashiri particularly. I don't think he really put much of a foot wrong. He obviously took a bit of stick after the Kilmarnock game. I know even we ourselves predicted maybe Paul Hanlon would come back in, but I think he did well against St Johnstone, and I just think for the fact, as I said, that it was a clean sheet, a largely good defensive performance. And I think managers and defenders, I do think they like that continuity in that area of the pitch. It is an area that I certainly, I'm not basing this on any data, but I just feel like it generally seems to be less changes in the back line if they're not enforced, whereas managers they seem a bit more inclined to kind of mix up forward line than they do at the back. So I think I wouldn't be surprised to see that stay as is. I think any of the four that played there would probably be pretty disappointed to find themselves on the bench tonight if that's turned out to be the case.
Any other changes?
No, I think I can.
No wild cards.
No, well, certainly not from me. No, maybe if I get a predicted lineup a bit closer this time, I'll start getting a bit bolder. But no, but I just generally don't. I know it's a busy week, but we're still earlier in the season. Guys will still have plenty of the tank at this point, and I just think from a good performance and result at the weekend, and obviously this being such a big game. Of such importance against a good team, I'd be inclined to think sort of minimal changes tonight. I do expect Yuan to come in and then maybe to be mixed up slightly more for Dundee at the weekend. But I think certainly tonight I wouldn't be surprised to see more of the same.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. And just like to say to anyone watching this, please don't get us on social media if we've got this horribly wrong. If there's 5 changes, nothing to do with us. I think I totally agree with you on this front. I do think it's a settled team or broadly a settled team is the way forward. I think Montgomery probably wants to play that way. Wants his players to know how they're playing, where they're playing, what they're doing at certain times. So certainly, we'll find out closer to kick-off, but I certainly think it will be the fewer changes, the better as far as Montgomery is concerned. It is good though. I think you look at the bench, you look at the options that can come off. Saturday's a great example. Bring on Christian Deutsch. He has a blocked effort. You bring on Rory Whittaker. We've already talked about him. The impact that he had. Obviously, you were able to bring on Ellie Yuan. You've got the likes of Josh Campbell on the bench. You've got Dylan Levitt on the bench. Didn't even get on at the weekend. And then you're able to bring on somebody like Lewis Stevenson or Paul Hanlon as well. So it does feel like that. It's a good squad, isn't it? It's a there's a lot of strength across the pitch in sort of every area. We've touched on the fact that maybe the wide options aren't as plentiful as Montgomery would like. Chris Cadden's obviously out injured and he can play further forwards. Harry McCurdy is another one who you can see playing on the flanks as well. And I think that's maybe the only real area. But aside from that, there's options in midfield, there's options at centre half, there's options at fullback. You've got options in the sort of front four we're talking about, and I think that helps, doesn't it? Having sort of like a strong bench, just being able to bring somebody on to try and change a game, see a game out. It feels like Hibs maybe didn't have that at times last season.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I think for a new manager as well, coming in to have options is really it's invaluable. He's probably still to an extent, feeling out certain, what works and what doesn't, who can play where, who he fancies at this point. But I think for fans, certainly, it's nice for fans to be able to talk about, debate who should play in what position, but from a positive sense, rather than, this isn't working, this area isn't working, who do we play there, or why don't we try so and so? Like it's the mood music is sort of certainly shifted in that sense. I feel there is debate around, as we've had for the past 20 minutes, who could maybe slot in where, but it's more of a there's a positive slant to it rather than this so and so's not been good, X, Y, Z, this isn't working type thing. So it's certainly good from that point, and I think it just underlines the fact that the past couple of weeks have been largely positive in most senses. Obviously, the result of the weekend, they had there was a real nice moment with Rory Whittaker, and then that couple of days after that, he's signed his new contract. It's another kind of nice moment for him, nice moment for the supporters. So I think it's looking fairly positive, but I think tonight it'll be a real test to see where the team's at the moment. Just kind of how much have they improved over these past couple of weeks? Because I said St Mirren are a right good side at the moment, and it'll be a real test. But I think one everybody at the club will be and should be looking forward to.
Absolutely, and I think we're looking forward to it as well, just to see what this new fun Hibs team is going to do. It's just to clarify that comment. I mean, it's just, I suppose, the speed with which Hibs are counter attacking. These sort of like little passes around the corner, little flicks, things like that. I mean, even you've got Rory Whittaker who turned 16 last month doing these little back heels in the box, things like that. They're just sort of they're fun to watch at the moment. But I think the main sort of feeling is that there's a lot more to come from the players. There's a lot more to come from Montgomery as well. So it's exciting times. So both of us will obviously be at Easter Road tonight, bringing you the latest from the game before and during and after. So do join us later on for more of that. HibsObserver.co.uk for latest updates. And do remember, you can subscribe to us for just £1 for 6 months. Give us a shot and come join us on this exciting new journey. I've been Patrick McPartlin. He's been Liam Bryce. Thank you.
Cheers.